Welcome everyone to the Wellness Superheroes. We are your hosts. I'm Annie, retired nurse and vaccine injured turned biohacker.
And I'm Jody, former corporate zombie and turned wellness investigator and coach.
And today we have back our favorite guest, Hannah, Detox Doula, with us. Welcome back, Hannah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us again.
All right, so we're just going to open with a couple of announcements. Firstly, Jody and I, if you've been following us for a little bit on our previous podcast with our former counterpart, you would know that we were doing the Andreas Kalka Parasite Protocol. I did it for 2 months, and Jody, you did it for 3, didn't you?
I did it for 3 months. Mm-hmm.
And so we both thought we'd let you know the results of what we found with that, because we were sharing our journey, but we didn't notice too many benefits. In fact, you know, it probably sent us both around the twist a little bit.
Yeah, it made me worse.
Yeah, so we just wanted to preface that even though we did it and tried it out, we don't recommend it. If you go back and watch our episodes, we were sharing our experiences and comparing them, not necessarily endorsing the Kalka protocol, especially just since we don't, now we're further down the line, we realize we want to stay away from pharmaceuticals and the antiparasitics. We don't necessarily...
I think there were too many, there were a few antiparasitic drugs in that protocol, which we have learned can really ruin your gut, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
And my gut was already not in good shape. So I do like the chlorine dioxide solution for certain things. I think it's great. But we did that intense protocol. I didn't do everything in it because it was too much for me. But it was like, whoa, I felt worse afterwards. And so that's why I'm so glad that we found the Touchstone Essentials and the Zeolite products, because they seem to be repairing what happened to me during that.
Yeah, that's really good. And same, just because we're not given the thumbs up of approval to the Parasite Protocol doesn't mean we disendorse CDS. We still think CDS
or
is really cool.
Or Calker, you know. I think
absolutely. Yeah,
person, but yeah, that wasn't for us.
Yeah, not a fan. Won't do that again. And you know, learn from our experiences, and skip out. Don't put yourself through that one. That was a bit rough.
Right.
But yeah, so then that's the business side away. We have an exciting announcement: the launch of our first ebook, in collaboration with the Detox Doula, the Parasite Focus, featuring the Fulvic Minerals, which is what we'll talk about today. It's currently available on our Facebook and Telegram groups. We haven't. That's a soft launch, really, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, soft launch.
Yeah. So we'll probably unpack that at a later time. But well done, ladies. It was a mammoth achievement. We wrote it in less than 3 or 4 weeks or something. That was a heck of a time.
I think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
2.5 weeks, maybe. Yeah.
But made fast work of that. That was really good. But Hannah, that was inspired by our last interview with Hannah, really, that we put that out. So thanks, Hannah. That was.
Which was really funny because it was like the 3rd time that we've been like, let's do a podcast about Fulvic. And then we did a whole thing of like zeolite and Fulvic. Nope. And then we did another one because people were like, that's really interesting. So we deep dive and we still didn't get to Fulvic. So this is like the one where we're like, we need to talk about the Fulvic. And then the more that we keep researching, the more information we come. And I'm like, Annie, we might have to do Fulvic part 1 and part 2. It's just like so much.
Well, so then on that note, we'll start unpacking the Fulvic Minerals. And so Hannah, what is Fulvic Minerals?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit before. We've covered this in previous episodes, but basically you've got a natural occurring substance that's found in your oceans and your peat and your coal and your soil. And then when that organic matter decomposes, you get this material out of it that helps you absorb your nutrients and helps you detox stuff out of the body, like your environmental pollution and your harmful metals and things like that. And what's so interesting about it, why we're focusing on minerals a bit, is because we haven't really realized as a society that in the last 50 to maybe a bit more, 50 years isn't that long ago now. Like when you think about it, that's like the 80s. We're probably talking like 80 years ago, like the 50s, where people still had their gardens. Like my nana and my parents still had a garden, somewhat of a veggie patch. There was still some herbs and things growing in the garden. And I remember pulling carrots up out of the dirt and, you know, eating a carrot, brushing the dirt off, and you could taste the difference between a carrot that you buy in the shops now. But this generation and generations under us don't really know what that is. And the mineral content we would normally rely on in our bodies, and we need it for our bodies to do everything. You need enzymes and minerals as the functions for everything. It just isn't in the soil anymore. So that's why we're taking this fulvic acid and these trace minerals, and we're supplementing with that. But fulvic acid, I like the description. It is like the DNA of Mother Earth itself. It's completely natural. It's been decomposed over thousands of years, and you get this really amazing, rich nutritional supplement that is going to get rid of mold, parasites, heavy metals, pesticides, all that kind of stuff. Everything that you've been depleted from that you're not getting in your diet anymore, because your diet that you eat, plants, or the animals that you eat that have eaten from the plants, they get their mineral content from the soil, and then you get the mineral content in for you to build your building blocks. But we don't have that anymore because our soil is depleted, our plants are depleted, and our animals are depleted.
So it's interesting though that it's as simple as something as, you know, yanking your own carrots out of the ground and eating them, you know.
Yeah. So my absolute recommendation would be that if you can have minerals in your diet, so from the soil, pesticide free, obviously, if you can grow some herbs, I've got, you know, parsley, oregano, rosemary, thyme, you know, all of those herbs, I just basil and that I sprinkle on, use in my stews, add to my salads or whatever. And that's in rich organic soil. I'm going to be getting that in my herbs. So if you can grow some sweet potato runners and a few bits and bobs, as you know, Annie, we've talked about, you know, if you've done a whole channel on this before, previous life, before you were butchered. That's a really good way of getting minerals. But most people don't have that, or the idea of starting to be a green thumb is super overwhelming. And one of the things that I have loved about, although I'm kind of segueing here, but one of the things that I've really loved about Touchstone is the ease of it. So the spray is and you're done. So anyone, any fast-paced, high-stress, crazy lifestyle, 6 kids that have got to run out the door to school, you're an executive and you're busy. I mean, it's literally taking you a couple of seconds to supplement. Same with the fulvic acid. It's just a couple of drops in your water, plunk it down and you're done. Yeah. So not everyone has the capacity, the space, the mindset or whatever to be able to get minerals in some form in their garden. And so they should be supplementing. Minerals are, trace minerals and fulvic acid would be like essential, but your body can't kind of function without them. Fortunately, it tries to, but we're depleted. And I remember seeing a quote from someone a few years ago that said, you can trace every ailment, every disease, every lack to a deficit in minerals.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's then that connects well to the premise that most diseases are caused by parasites, because they leach off our resources, our nutrients, and then leave us with the scraps. Yeah. So
if you are not taking your minerals, you don't have enzymes, then your basic mitochondrial function can't occur. You know, we talk a lot about vitamins and things like that, but we don't talk about beneath that on a cellular level. We have these foundational things that we absolutely need. And if we don't have them when we get out of whack, usually it affects the gut. My emphasis, what I noticed, funnily enough, when going over my notes, was how much this all keeps relating back to the gut. Which we've definitely focused on in the past. And it's definitely the focus of Touchstone's whole brand, actually, is the gut, really. But more and more studies are coming about the gut-brain axis and how the immune system function is from the gut, and how if the gut's not healthy, the rest of the body can't function as healthily. And most people have aches, pains, headaches, foggy brains, whatever, and it's all related to the gut. It's related to diet. It's related to inflammation. Now, you can have a good diet, not a poor diet. So say you're not a person who drinks Coke and eats Maccas, but you have a good diet. But if you have a good diet of fruit and veggies and they don't have minerals in them and they don't have enzymes, you don't have enzymes in your diet, your body has nothing to work with. Yeah. The food is what fuels us or harms us, and the food isn't good inherently. And so by deficit, it's harming us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So This is
Wow.
really cool. I'm really glad that we're talking about fulvic and trace minerals, because I think a lot of people, even I'd learned about trace minerals a while ago, but it's not until you really look at how much they're needed. And I've written some extensive notes here, so I don't forget to tell you guys some of this stuff, that you go, wow. So if I have inflammation in my knees, that could be related to my gut. If I have a foggy head, it's, you know, I might not be drinking enough water. I might have heavy metal toxicity, but it's related to my gut. And that's where you've got your parasites and your heavy metals. And you also have, and your pesticides or things like that. But you also have a deficit in enzymes and, you know, amylase and all of those kind of things, and your minerals.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like the gut, your body is constantly trying to reach homeostasis, always trying to reach balance. And like, what have I got to work with here, guys? Give me something to work here with. The body's trying. Every cell is turning over and healing and replicating and trying at all 24/7, your whole life.
Yeah.
We've got to like support it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us then about Fulvic Mineral Plus and what its main features are.
Okay, so I'll whiz through these, but then we'll unpack them a little bit more.
Sounds good.
So specifically, it supports gut health. The compounds in the fulvic acid nourish the gut and they support a healthy microbiome. We'll unpack that a bit down the track. As a result of that, it strengthens your immune function. So over 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you have a healthier gut microbiome, you're going to have a stronger immunity, which is really important to talk about now, especially for our audience that are coming into winter. And there's, I don't know what the news reports are wherever you are in the world, but here just yesterday I read that people are going to need to be prepared for another wave, and this is really serious. And if you haven't had your 5th Jabberwocky, you're going to die, and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's really important that people understand the role of supplements like zinc, pinklinate, vitamin D, and having a healthy gut, because that is where your immune system function begins. Most people struggle with colds, flus, and other ailments, especially in the autumn, winter months, because our base society has an unhealthy gut. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
And the toxic load as well. And the toxic load. So they're not dealing with the toxic load. So then that's when
100%. So the thing about, I think we talked about this in the last thing, the first thing is get those toxins out. Don't go on a super juice diet, fasting, keto, FODMAP, whatever, if you haven't even got the PBX zeolite stuff and taken a chunk of that away, or so you're just going to hurt. Like you're just going to be incapable of normal function. Take out the toxic load, and then your body's like has a breather and can kind of be in neutral, and then it can build up to good health. But at the moment you're minus 50 and you're trying to do something with it, you're going to maybe come up to minus 40. So you need to come up to ground zero again, and then have the building blocks towards good health. But the gut is where it would start for everything, really. Just when you think about it as well, the gut is where you absorb. Well, what do we do as humans? We eat. Like, that's what we do. We eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We snack, we eat. Food is our fuel. On a scientific level, then we have cells, we have mitochondria, we have ATP, we have the process of turning that food or fuel into energy, right? In trillions of cells. But it has to come from the food. We wouldn't exist as humans if we weren't eating and drinking. So if our system, our digestive system isn't functioning well and can't assimilate or absorb the nutrients and minerals and enzymes it needs to begin those processes, these catalysts and stuff, then like what even do we have? Like just on a basic level, does that make sense? Like we have to absorb the nutrient. We have to first of all get rid of the toxic stuff that's inhibiting that. We have to then fuel our body with good nutrients, with food that sustains us. And then we have to be able to, it has to be bioavailable. We have to be able to have that food go into us and then go into our bloodstream and around the body, then supporting the cellular energy making process in every system of our body, whether it be endocrine or a digestive system or reproduction system or anything else.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah.
So it sounds like that, like Fulvic it encapsulates, like in the unpacking of like supporting gut health, then it automatically links to immune function, and then nutrient absorption of nutrients, and then cellular
It will,
function.
it definitely, the fulvic compounds definitely bolster the absorption rate of nutrients. And so if you are talking about, which we're talking about down the track, taking out the bad, then you need to put in the good. So if you're putting in the good, but your body is, so when you guys were talking a little bit earlier about how we did this, we guinea pigged on ourselves, we were trying these protocols and stuff, but you both had come from a place where you were unwell and you were trying to fix something. Like you weren't just doing it like, we're completely fine and we're just going to guinea pig. You were like, we're not fine. What's wrong? Let's guinea pig on ourselves. Is that right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yes.
Right. So then if you're in a place of deficit, and I've been in this place as well, where something's wrong, there's a crisis or there's something not okay. And usually that affects the absorption that's in the gut, where we have these problems like these parasites and these digestive issues, and our bowel movements aren't right. And we just don't feel good because, and we get headaches or fogginess or aches and pains in our body, rashes on our skin, because our very fundamental second brain isn't able to, it's just inhibited, like it can't do what it was supposed to do. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'm reiterating, is if you're taking out that stuff, putting in the good stuff, then your body can start to absorb or use the nutrients it needs to heal. Until it's gotten to that kind of neutral point, it really can't do it. It'll try to do it for sure. It'll absolutely try to do it. It can't not do that. Its entire, every cell in your body is geared towards your healing and your balance. It's constantly healing itself. It's constantly replenishing itself. That's what it does. It's constantly replicating. But if it's in a state of disrepair and struggle already, it can't go anywhere with that. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm kind of not.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. I feel like I just kind of went a really long way around to say one simple thing. But anyway, I'll hopefully.
Well, I think it helps to reiterate it because for people to understand, because, you know, I've gone through so many parasite cleanses, but I still have parasites, you know, and when we were writing the book, I really understood why. And just from talking to you and you know, figuring this out, going, oh, wait, I have to do this first and then do this, right? And I was telling Annie before, it's like, it's almost like when you, it's like, you know, if you're, I'm just thinking of a war game, if you're killing enemies inside of a building and a SWAT team goes in there and kills them and just leaves them there and they rot. And it's like, how about just taking out the building? Like, you know, like just taking out the building, you know, so everything goes and then you can rebuild, right?
That's a really good analogy, actually. That's a really good analogy. I mean, I'd go one step further and say maybe some of those soldiers were pregnant. They give birth to another little one.
Oh yeah, and a bunch of them,
because feed off the rotting materials of the last one. I mean,
there's rotting bacteria left in there. You've killed them, right? But they're just left there. But what about just getting rid of their habitat? You know, just getting rid of it. You know, and then
making
making
it uninhabitable for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which was what we focused on in the book. Really, it was reiterating that bit, really making that land. There was an interview I'd listened to, a short one with Dr. Lee Merritt just last week, and she was talking about parasites, which is so funny because, you know, Jody and I, here we are, we've been talking about parasites and stuff for the last 9 months at least, and so now the doctors are catching up, and that's like, oh, that's a cool little wink for us. But she was talking about the queen or the mother who lays all the eggs, right? So when she's alive, she actually releases this hormone which keeps all the larvae subdued, so that she's not having because there's only one queen, right? There's only one who does all the laying. Same in beehives, same in the ant kingdom, it's the same. And so only one lays the eggs.
And she showed this big, huge picture of like the colony with all the eggs, and it has this like shroud over it.
I'll send it to you. It was really good. It was only for 15 minutes. It was really insightful. But so what we realized was what we're up against, because the mother or the queen leaches this hormone which keeps all the larvae subdued, and then when she dies, that's when they mature, that's when they hatch. And then someone else takes her place. So that's what
Yeah.
we're up against.
So it's like never ending, right? That's how it's never ending. You'll never kill all of them if you keep, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. You've got to get rid of.
Yeah, well, I think
you have to evict them. So
I think that this is a really important thing to just stop for a second and tell our audience. This is why, a lot of what I do is about taking the overwhelm out of detoxing, or taking the overwhelm out of managing homeschool life, or just mum life, or whatever. There's anxiety and there's stress or whatever, and it can feel overwhelming. So people don't do anything.
Yes.
But if you already come into your journey of health with a phase of this is for life, like I'm caretaking for my body, I only have one, and I'm going to be doing various different things for life. Like the amount of things that I've tried and experimented with, and I wouldn't diss 99% of them. Like I'm really grateful that I got into goji berries. I'm really grateful that I have used aromatherapy and the olfactory bulb to help my limbic system manage my emotions. I'm so glad for all of those things that I've tried and that I love, but I don't do all of them every day. It's not this overwhelming, like popping pill at my counter every morning. You just have to be able to step back and trust, get to know your body, because everyone is different. What works for Annie, that will be different to what works for Jody, will be different to what works for me, which will be different to what I do with my 7-year-old girl and my 14-year-old son.
Yeah.
So if we can encourage people to say, you're on a journey for life. Don't think that you're going to be doing some little protocol for the next 8 weeks and then you're fine. Like, do that protocol and then build on it. What am I going to do next? Am I going to have some super green smoothies? Am I going to learn how to do some intermittent fasting? I might book in for the summer to make sure I have an infrared sauna and some massages and learn some of my reflexology points. And just as you're journeying through life, trace minerals, learning, educating yourself, understanding how the zeolite clinoptila light works, all of that kind of stuff is just kind of fun if you reframe it like, I just want to get to the end of my life, 80, 90, 100, whatever, and be like, yeah, I did good. I looked after myself, and then that just takes the overwhelm out. You don't have to be sitting there going, I'm going to take my fulvic acid and my vitamin C and my quercetin and my PBX spray and my super greens and my protein shakes and my collagen and like it does not have to feel like you're on this overwhelming, crazy ass journey.
Yeah.
Just when, can I be real here for a sec? Are we allowed to talk?
Yeah.
Open?
100%.
absolutely, that's the point.
That's the whole point. I knew that. I just wanted to check that I wasn't going into TMI zones. When I'm on the lead up to my period and on my period, then I take minerals more because I'm losing blood and iron. I have more rest time. I often will book in just a little 30-minute massage at the little shop up the road that is, you can kind of walk in. When I've been doing a lot of webinars and Zoom calls and I'm around Wi-Fi a bit more and I've been on my computer sorting out a lot more than another day, that's when I'll go for a walk on the beach to get the negative ions. That's when I'll do a lot more. I'll lie on the grass in my yard and just be grounded for a bit. If I've been physically taxing myself or I've been driving in the car for hours when I'm on tour or whatever, that's when I've the Shakti mat and infrared sauna. And so the point of what I'm trying to say is your body will have needs every single day, sometimes hourly. Like what you need in the morning is different to what you need by the afternoon. Stressors can come, things can hit you out of nowhere that you weren't affecting. Friggin' the red blood moon the other night. I didn't sleep very well. I ended up sleeping in my daughter's bed. So if I can encourage people who are listening that if you get to know your body, and some of this stuff is fundamental, like this is not a lie, like your body needs minerals, it needs enzymes, it needs nutrients. So that will be applicable to everyone. But how it outworks in your life and how you do you is going to be a little different to other people. So instead of taking information that you hear on the internet or information that you either should or shouldn't do, just sit back and listen for a second, get these fundamentals right that we're talking about today, and then go a little bit with the flow. Like some days I just will take some PBX spray. I just feel like I need to get rid of some stuff. I really like that fulvic acid minerals and the PBX spray helps me to go to the toilet. So if I do have anything in there that needs to get out, that's going to quicken that a little bit. But, sometimes you're just going to have to drink more water. Sometimes you're just going to have to sit and say no to people. Does that make sense? There's going to be little boundaries and little things that you're going through. But the point is, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just get some fundamental education that we aren't taught in school so much, and then apply how it's going to look for you. You're going to get a different pack or a different bundle or whatever to the next person, because that's what you need.
Yeah.
You might have inflammation. You might be struggling to sleep. So you're going to apply what you're learning and then figuring out what's right for you.
Yeah, it's really good, Hannah.
That's a total segue from my list of things that fulvic acid minerals does for you.
No, but it needed to be said because
Yeah.
people have kind of just, in the last couple of years anyway, have just kind of woken up and gone, oh, W2, what, you know, like, what the hell? You know, and just, and they're like, what do we do? And then, so then there's, then they're frantic and manic and trying to do all the things, and it doesn't help. And it's funny because I often sit back and look at smokers, and they take their 10 minutes a few times a day to go and have their fag, you know, their cigarette, and that's their self-care. And the coffee drinkers, like, it's first thing in the morning, people are all like, oh, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. It's like, if that was just that thought process was expanded beyond those two items and actually applied to other things that will actually maintain, you know, not being irate and not flying off the handle at, you know, someone who beeps at you or looks at you funny in the traffic, you know. So I feel like that was very valid.
In 2020, when I was working for like a silver chain, like a nursing into the community, so mental health, disability, aged care, I ended up kind of running the office. Basically, it was pretty stressful as things came out. And the smokers, I kid you not, every 45 minutes went down the stairs and the three of them would have a fag outside. So I said to my line manager in the end, every 45 minutes, I'm going out for a 10-minute walk around the block. I'm getting some fresh air. I'm taking my shoes off. I did. I actually took my work shoes off, just wiggled my feet on the ground. Like, it wasn't even like grass or beach, it was just cement. But I was like, if they can go off 8 times a day and have a fag and go around the water cooler on the way back and make themselves another coffee, and I'm sitting at my desk absolutely dying from the stress of it all, because there's all these patients that couldn't get toilet paper, that couldn't go out of the house, that were freaking out about everything, and, you know, casual workers not available and all this other stress. You're exactly right. If we would stop looking at alcohol, coffee, and cigarettes as our self-care, and we would go a walk, a breather, some breathing exercises for just 3 minutes, some gentle stretches and rolls and stuff for just 10 minutes, then the world would be a happier place. Guarantee.
Oh yeah. Well, and too, if you did work in an office, that for your employer to encourage that, you know, encourage that kind of behavior. I know this is just a really short story, but a company that I worked for when I first got in the work world, they had a gym. It was a big technology company, and they had a huge gym that was free to the employees, and it was amazing. It had a basketball court, it had half Olympic pool, volleyball court, gym classes, a whole weight room, everything. And I went every day for lunch. I would go and work out, and I would take a shower and I'd come back to my desk. Because I did that, they gave me 2 hours for lunch because I was taking care of my health.
Wow.
So good.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. And they would encourage you to do that. And I literally brought my lunch every day, and I literally went to the gym every day for lunch. And people would say, "Wait, you know," they said, "Do you want to go lunch?" Nope. Because I was so focused, and I was so, it was just part of my habit, you know? And it was awesome, because then I didn't have to go outside anywhere of work or whatever to go to the gym before work or whatever. I did it in lunch.
That's so good.
But the cool thing about that is that your function in the afternoon, when everyone's getting that slump and they need to get the chocky bar and all that kind of stuff, wouldn't have occurred for you, because you would have had that huge big surge of all the endorphins and happy chemicals and stuff, and your brain would have been more
productive.
sharp.
I was like the number one employee. Like, I was, you know, always, and people didn't understand. And I'm like, because I'm taking care of myself. I was very disciplined about my food, but it wasn't hard to be disciplined about my food, because I was doing everything, you know, I was supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about that is you know, when you're at the gym and stuff as well, you're drinking another liter of water more than you would if you were just sitting at your desk, not sweating and not kind of thirsty for it. It's funny that people don't connect the dots. This is the thing that I want people to start to become way more intuitive, I was even driving yesterday thinking, I wonder if I'm someone that can be approached with stuff. Like, am I being the best person I can be, that if there's something that I'm doing that's wrong, people feel comfortable to come and talk to me, because I'm quite a strong person, but on the inside, I want to be the best version I can. I'm so open to not criticism, but what's the word? Like critiquing, positive criticism. I feel like you do this, Hannah. If someone respectfully comes to me with that, I take it. But I wonder if that's how they perceive me. And why I'm telling that story is because I feel like we should all be questioning things and connecting the dots. Like, people see you and they're like, how is she the number one employee? I wish I had that $100 bonus. I wish I was the number one productive employee. But are they looking at what you do and going, maybe I should emulate that? She goes to the gym instead of going out for lunch with her friends and drinking a beer. Maybe I should do that too. People don't seem to be very good anymore at connecting the dots.
Right, exactly. Yeah, people used to say too that the time they came to my cube, I was eating. Because I would have these little snacks throughout the day. They were healthy. And they go, how do you stay so fit when you're just eating nonstop all day long? But I did.
Yeah.
Metabolism was so high that I was constantly, hungry. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, well, may this podcast help encourage people to think outside the box. And, my nan always says common sense isn't common anymore. And sometimes some of this stuff is really actually common sense stuff. It's not rocket science. It's not hard, but
right.
it's just the busyness and the stress and the overwhelm of life has stopped so much of the current society, who's living in the world today. I wouldn't even say it's critical thinking. it's common sense stuff.
Exactly.
But we get overwhelmed and stressed and foggy, and we don't look after ourselves, and then we can't actually see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
Fluoride has a little bit to do with that too, but let's not talk about that right now.
So tell us the difference between Fulvic Mineral Plus and like the powdered Fulvic.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'll do is because we're going to go over this here. So I'll just quickly read out the other top things that's really important from our Fulvic Minerals. Okay. And then I'll quickly talk about that, because I'll do that. So we got sidetracked on the third one, which is about the gut absorption. So these compounds in the fulvic acid passes through cellular membranes to support optimal cell function. And actually that segues really beautifully into that question, because it has a low molecular, I don't know what the word is for it, I've gone blank, but basically that allows it to pass through cellular membranes, whereas your powdered ones don't always have that, but I'll go further into that in a minute. It also has natural electrolyte minerals, which activate the biological processes for increased energy. So when you're taking your fulvic acids and your trace minerals, you're going to have an increase of energy as well, which obviously comes from having a healed gut and all of that. There are some neuroprotective effects from early research into brain health that fulvic acid can do. It fights free radicals. So the fulvic acid and the trace minerals that we have in our fulvic acid acts like combating and damaging free radicals. In that process we were talking about before in the mitochondria with the making of energy, you can get oxidative stress. And so this helps as an antioxidant to combat those free radicals. And it also supports detoxification, because fulvic acid can bind into toxins and help detox the body. So we were talking before about the difference we were going to talk about the difference between fulvic acid in a liquid and fulvic acid in a powder. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the big things to talk about here is that a lot of the Amazon and online brands and stuff about the powder things are highly diluted. That's not just powder form, that's also in liquid form, but that's when you don't know where you can trace back to the company. Like, you don't have that transparency like what we have. They're extracted using chemicals. So Annie, you know a little bit about that, how some aromatherapy oils, they use hexane to distill as much of the oil as possible. So then you have hexane in your oil, in your pure oil, that you're then diffusing around your kids. Like, it kind of blows my mind that people can get away with that, but people can get away with everything. Yeah. But like with that industry, you have the FDA or the TGA will kind of say, you can't do this, but then they don't really regulate the industry so people can get away with what they want. So most are highly diluted. They're extracted using chemicals. They're not safe for internal use. Now, here's the really crazy thing, and they're not tested for safety. but I was doing a little bit of research into this, and there was a test that was done from a humic acid, fulvic acid company that uses it for the garden because they use it. It's trace minerals, so to put it into your soil in the garden for your plants, right? It's really cool. They said that it'll. Let me just read their thing. In one study, they found out that more than 50% of the products in the international market did not meet the concentration or quantity of their fulvic acids that was declared on the manufacturer's own label. And let me just go. Do you guys mind if I just quickly do this?
No, feel free. Did you want to share screen?
No. But 1 in every 3 products that they'd had contained high levels of fine insoluble particles that could potentially block irrigation equipment. So we're talking about this from a garden point of view. This isn't for us. They had gone through and found that there was, because they're talking about mesh and microns and things like that. It was just crazy. So a high quality one would be refined by the manufacturer. Let me just read this. Hang on. There was this one cool thing that this company had done. This was just in fulvic and humic acid for the garden, right? This isn't even applying it to
It's not for
us.
human
Yeah.
consumption.
Basically, they were saying that because of this, because the manufacturer on the bottle says what it says, right? But they were doing independent tests separate to that. And it wasn't even right on, you can't trust the product. And I can't find where it's written it down. I had it there to just refer back. I hadn't put it in my notes. I just wanted to go to the website. But basically, the quality was so bad that even the absorption in the soil to the plant wasn't going to be good enough, wasn't going to be sufficient. And the plant wouldn't be available to the plant because of the molecular structure for decades. So if we're applying that to a quality, and they're talking about, we want quality humic and fulvic acids for our garden. So they're talking about, they're very passionate about making sure that you get the right stuff for your soil, for your garden, okay? And we're finding that 50% of them have these particles in them that block up your irrigation or have contaminants in them, that 1 in 3, whatever else was the other thing. I'll have to try and link it in the comments for you, babe. Sorry, I had it all there and it's just, I just can't find it. I'm going to turn off my Zoom and find it immediately, of course. And that a stack of them weren't even the concentration that they said that they would be, that the manufacturer had said on the label. And due to the way that fulvic acids work, they weren't even going to get uptaken into the plant crop for decades. This was what their studies were showing. And that's for a passionate about your garden soil humic. So can you imagine trying to use a powder that you bought online and finding that it's not been independently tested, you don't know where it's come from, and that there was problems with that, which we'll talk about.
Oh, that's crazy. So you talk about the just the powdered stuff, but Jodie's been using the fulvic soak, which we've mentioned a couple of times. So something like that, what would be, do you have a comment on what the benefit or the difference is between topical application as opposed to internal?
Yeah, I do. Let me just go to my notes. Hang on a sec. What I'm going to do, guys, if you don't mind, would it be okay? You can still ask the questions, but can I go through in an order? Yeah. Because everything builds on the next thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So going from the benefits of the fulvic minerals, and then what's the difference between the zeolite and the fulvic and how they detox, and then why take them together, and then going down. Are you guys okay if I kind of?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If there's outstanding questions, we'll ask them afterwards. How about that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Ask questions. But I feel like a lot of this stuff, it's fundamental building stuff. So if it goes all over the place, I feel like
no, you're right. Right. Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do is we've talked about how fulvic acid helps detox. Who have listened to the one that we did on zeolite are like, so which one should I take? Like, how does it? What's the difference? So just a real quick recap, 30-second elevator pitch on the zeolite clenoctylolite, right? It's a negative. It's a cage-like structure like that. It looks like in a picture. It's all these dots. That's what it is on a cellular level. And then it's got a really strong negative charge. So it binds to like a magnet, anything with a positive charge. Anything with a positive charge is your lead, cadmium, mercury, formaldehyde, all of that sort of stuff. Arsenic, fluoride, chlorine. And then attached to those biofilms are the pesticides, Roundup kind of stuff, as well as your parasites. So anything that kind of gets stuck into the middle of that that's positive will get taken bound to the zeolite, and then you just eliminate it by your normal waste system. Zeolite, but fulvic acid has minerals that form new ions that bind with the pollutants such as pesticides and herbicides, catalyzing the breakdown of these detrimental toxins and helping eliminate them from the body. And catalyzing, a catalyst is speeding up, a quickening of. So fulvic acid is really good because it works quickly like zeolite, but it's different because zeolite has this negative charge and a positive charge, whereas fulvic doesn't have that. But what we were talking about before, Jody, I think you were asking, is that fulvic acid has a low molecular weight and a low molecular size. So that makes it capable of penetrating cell walls rather than substances that have a larger molecular size. Now, we talked about zeolite before being really, really tiny because we nanoize down our zeolite. So it's tiny, so it reaches a greater surface area. The problem with people who are taking fulvic and humic acids like together, like people have heard of fulvic acid or often heard of humic acid. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Fulvic is a type of humic. It's under the umbrella of humic. But a lot of people that were taking a powdered fulvic and humic powder, which, you know, became a huge thing through the pandemic, particularly, humic doesn't have that low molecular size, so it can't cross through the membranes as easily. But anyway, fulvic acid, because it does have that small molecular size, can then go through the semi-permeable membranes of your cell walls. That supplies nutrition to the cell, and that increases the physiological function of that cell. So we're talking again cells. So every system of your body, endocrine system, reproductive system, cardiovascular system, all of them are made up of cells. You know, your skin has epithelial cells, right? So there's lots and lots of different types of cells. But if every single cell benefits from having an increase of nutrition supply to that cell, then it can then function physiologically better as a cell, which then makes up your system, which then makes up your entire body reaching homeostasis. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is it making sense? Cool.
Yep.
So to go on to then why taking them together, it's really important then when you're detoxing that you supplement at the same time. We didn't really go into this, Annie, when we were first talking about PBX. I don't think we were so wanting to concentrate on people just being not overwhelmed and having a detox that's simple and fast and effective and gentle and safe, which the zeolite clenoptilolite is. But we didn't really go into like phase 2, which is making sure that while you're taking the bad out, you're putting the good back in.
Yeah. So
I briefly touched on that at the start. We kind of segued into that. Trace minerals are a huge factor. Like we talk about vitamin D and vitamin C and K and all that kind of stuff. Most people have heard of that, take your multivitamin. But most people don't understand what the role is of minerals and enzymes in the body, yeah? Mm. But when we are detoxing, it's really important that we are taking care of ourselves, nourishing ourselves. So when we're having our zeolite, which is in our fulvic acid, we've got fulvic acid, we've got trace minerals, and we've got a zeolite in our fulvic acid mineral. But you can also get a pack where you have the fulvic acid mineral and the nanoized, really small PBX zeolite spray together, yeah? So I'm going to read this out. We have this nanobiotechnology in these formulas. So it's not the same as nanotech in the sense that it's bad, like nanobots, but it's nanoized down. The size of the zeolite is like 0.5 microns. So what's really cool about this is the fulvic acid has that low molecular size, so it can cross between your membranes and provide nourishment in that to the cells, wherever it is in the body. And the zeolite is also pulling on a very, very, very tiny level, 0.5 micron level, your horrible toxins and stuff out, and then eliminating that through the waste products. So your body's now taking out crap, but re-inputting in good. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you have a fulvic that has this clenoptilolite zeolite, it's not been ruined. It's binding and taking out the toxins, parasites, heavy metals. And then you have the fulvic with the trace minerals. Trace minerals have been linked to helping with cancer, autoimmune disorders, even viruses and bacteria, which is important to understand because we're in this where people are still worried about this pandemic. Yeah. This is where the trace minerals come in. So making sure that your product is pure, that you're not overdosing on it because you don't need a lot, making sure that you're only taking a small part, but it's effective because the nanotech ensures that it's reaching this large surface area. Then you've got this perfect product. That's why the answer to the why take these together is you have got something taking out the bad, something re-inputting the good. It's a bioavailable to the body, so it's actually being used by the body. You only need a low dose. Fulvic acid, you mustn't overdose on it. You only need a low dose. I have a lot of people who've used the powders and stuff and found that they've probably overdosed accidentally because there wasn't a good ratio or dosage instruction to use on the chart. So they see things like, oh my God, it's taking stuff out of my body. And then they use too much of it. Fulvic minerals are very strong. I can't think of a way to describe this, but this is an organic matter. Yeah, it's very concentrated because for millennia, it's been in the ground in this deep, deep layer of, like I said before, it's like the DNA of Mother Earth. It's like part of who she is kind of thing. And then you pull it out and go willy-nilly with it. You don't have to, and you don't need to spend your budget on that much. But two, you shouldn't, because you only need a very, 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 we're talking about trace minerals, like we have minerals and then we have trace minerals. So you don't need a lot.
Yeah, too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Right. Yeah. And with the powders, if you're buying a powder online, you've also got that thing of, if they can't even find a good quality, if some passionate gardeners can't find a good quality thing for their biodynamic gardening, wanting to make sure that there's good minerals in the soil. We know that we need minerals in our soil, so we're going to make sure that we get really good ones. And their studies are like, oh boy, there's contaminants and there's particles and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't want to be risking too much taking, say, parasites out or toxins out, but also possibly having stuff in there that isn't good for me. So one of the big things that brought fulvic minerals to most people's psyche was this company called Black Oxygen Organics, and everyone that sold that used this hashtag boo will get boo fulvic. And this was a Canadian company, an MLM company that started, I think it was 2015. It just went nuts in 2020. There was a lot of people claiming that it was going to cure their COVID and kind of all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it was shut down by the FDA in the USA in 21. They advised consumers to stop using and throw away all the powder and tablet things that they'd had from boo. They had found elevated levels of lead and arsenic in the powder sample.
Oh my gosh.
So there was class actions that were filed because this is a product that was contaminated with heavy metals based on lab tests by science that then confirmed these elevated levels. And this was my fear, is that people would take something that is a good thing inherently. Fulvic acid's a great thing, but you've got to remember we're mining it or taking it from the earth. Anything that we're going to take from the earth. This is why we talked on the zeolite cleanoptolite, and I said this is clean mined, it's sustainable, it's mined in a way that it's not going to ruin the environment, it's mined carefully, it's washed carefully, it's independently tested. We make sure that we don't crush it into a powder and break that bond, that negative charge bond that is the whole purpose of zeolite cleanoptolite, and then we take this pure liquid form. Well, it's the same with our fulvic. We're making sure that where we're taking it from is, and it's proprietary, we're not going to go and announce it, we have to do that, but it has to be careful and we have to have it independent tested, which is why it took so long to formulate this amazing stuff with the fulvic acid, trace minerals, and the zeolite all together. It's a really unique product in that it has the zeolite with it. So by taking the fulvic, you're only taking 2 mils a day, tiny trace minerals and fulvic acid and zeolite, but you're getting this astounding benefit from it, and that's tiny. So it's not about quantity with fulvic, it's about quality. And that's why I just have some concerns. I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I wouldn't be at all worried about using a foot soak or a bath soak of a fulvic. I would just be wanting to make sure that I have sourced it reputably. And I'm very critical now of that. Like, I want to know, what's your independent testing and all that kind of stuff. So that would be my advice there. I think a fulvic acid bath is the same as a bentonite clay bath. Bentonite clay can have lead in it too. So, and bentonite clay and magnesium baths are ones that I start almost everyone on a detox. And I'm like, if you can have a bath and if you can have an infrared sauna when you're starting on a detox, do it. It's so calming and so relaxing. It's going to draw things out. But you've got to make sure that your magnesium is magnesium chloride, not magnesium sulfate, Epsom salts. You've got to make sure it doesn't have perfume in it. It's not like fragranced with lavender, because you're just going to be putting poison on your body. And if you're using bentonite clay, magnesium, and you're making sure that you get it at a good, proper quality one from a company that you trust, you've looked into them, Your bentonite clay is exactly the same. Bentonite clay, you have to watch that it does not have that. I got a bentonite clay for my eczema from a health food shop, and I researched the company before I bought it, and they had their results that they had said they had tested it for lead. And I was like, hey, these guys know what they're talking about. I'm not just going to take something from the ground, from Mother Earth, and be like, oh, it's natural, it's lovely. I always joke to people, arsenic is natural and organic. So is cow dung. Doesn't mean it's a good thing to have.
Yeah. Right.
So with your powders, with your bentonite clay, with whatever you're doing, really making sure that you're buying it from a company like Touchstone that has that integrity. That's what I'm getting at, is you have to make sure that these are independent tested and made in a way they've thought of everything. You have to be able to have that trust in the company. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You could do yourself more harm than good if you just
totally
throw caution to the wind.
It's just too much of a good thing ever it can be a bad thing, but it's also that you can have a good thing, fulvic acid, and where you source it or how you source it is different from one place to the next. We don't know. You source something in Canada or Ireland from these peat bogs or whatever, and you don't know if for the last 60 years down the road there, you've had a chicken farm and all the spray and residue and crap that they've been using there has just run off down into this lovely ancient peat bog.
Yeah.
And instead of having a lovely humic fulvic acid, you now have something that's contaminated. Maybe you need to go deeper. Maybe you need to do some process to get it out. But the point is, just because it's natural from the earth doesn't mean it's good unless you are doing these processes and checking these things.
Yeah, good point.
And hopefully that wasn't the longest roundabout way to get to that point.
No, it was good.
Good.
So let's talk a bit about what your personal experience and testimonial of using Fulvic Minerals has been. Because I know that you've had your own chronic health journey.
Okay, so Annie, that I had eczema my whole life. Actually, no, I had eczema my whole childhood, and then I had a healing. I actually grew out of it, or it just went, and it was awesome. So my teenage years into my young adult years, I didn't have eczema. Great, I had beautiful, beautiful skin. I came back from London. I was pretty stressed out. I'd had 2 small boys. I'd had some postpartum depression, anxiety. I've kind of touched on that before. My husband was still there finishing his MBA exams. I came over with the boys to set them in for the school year, like 1st of February kind of thing, and get them ready for the Australian school year, the summer. And I was like 59 kilos. I'm like 70 now. I'd lost a lot of weight through the stress. It was another international move with a 2 and a 4-year-old. And I was just stressed out. I had a lot of anxiety back then. And my womb was doing weird stuff. My reproductive system I was bleeding and not bleeding. I was bleeding constantly every day, and it was just really weird. And of course you start to think, I don't believe in pap smears, because there's another whole thing there. My cervix the lining of my cervix wall had come out. And so they were saying, oh, you have cervix cells. It's okay. Like, it's not a drama. We can cauterize it or whatever. Basically, some of your cervix cells are out into the area that they're not supposed to be. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, do I have cancer? So this was all happening in the kind of 6 months before I moved back. And I just made a decision, like in December, I'm moving back. I can't do this anymore. It's been 7 years. So I came back from London to Australia with the 2 small boys, got them settled into school, and hubby was going to finish the exams and his work that he'd paid for. And like, he had 3 more months. So it was like, we may as well finish all of that and then come over in the Easter holidays. And we would just settle in. It was just a very, very stressful time of our lives. Any house move is, but an international move is just horrendously stressful. When I got back, the bleeding was crazy. So I went in and had a Mirena put in, which is kind of used as a contraceptive, like an IUD. So they put up this Mirena, and it kind of has this little umbrella, and it just stops you from being able to get pregnant because it stops everything coming down the fallopian tube. Well, I reacted instantly to that. I thought that initially I must have had a reaction to the anesthetic because they put you under. They make 3 incisions. They do this. They did a DNC and cleaned out my endometrius, and they popped in a Mirena. And I thought I must have just had a really horrible reaction to the anesthetic, which I haven't had before. Not that I'd had a lot of anesthetic before, but yeah, with my teeth and stuff. So, and I was itchy, so crazy itchy. I was so itchy that my breasts started to bleed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was like, I just was like consumed with this itch. Having been a child with eczema, I knew, don't scratch it, honey, don't scratch it, you'll make it worse. I'd grown up my whole life shocking eczema. So I would just be like, you know, like just, and itch is so frustrating. Like you have a mozzie bite, it's frustrating. You imagine being itchy all over your body. I went back to the doctor, the gynecologist, and he was like, it's just an adjustment period, whatever. You know, and I was like, I want it out. And he was like, and that was my intuition. I should have just listened to my intuition. God, if I could pass one thing on to younger women is don't trust the allopathic medical system and trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, pursue it until you find the answer. So, you know, by this time I still was not a big, you know, fan of the system. I was still technically a nurse, but I had seen a lot of toxicity in the system. But I, at that time, was still kind of like, well, doctors are doing their best and they're not all bad and all that. Whereas now I'm like, that's daft. I've got no time. I just don't have any respect for any of it. Like, you know, if I have a couple of doctor friends and I can say that to them in the sense that they even say our literature is compromised. We work 18-hour days. We are up to date. We have an app called Up to Date where we get the latest research on whatever. And if it's not on there and it hasn't been peer reviewed by the scientists paid for by Up to Date to tell us that something's good, we're not going to pay attention to it. Everything else is a conspiracy theory. And we work an 18-hour day in ED. We're not going to go home and be like, oh, Hannah says I should look into adrenal fatigue or I should look into zeolites. It's just not going to happen. Wow. We're exhausted. They do that on purpose. And then our 8 or 9 years leading up to that, the literature is paid for by GlaxoSmithKline. And the industries that regulate and the industries that are infiltrating into the, I say the word infiltrating and it sounds crazy, but I mean, literally that's what happens. So this is all going on. He goes, leave it in for 6 months. Your body will adjust to it. So I did. And it was horrendous. The itch was so bad. I ended up going to my local GP and saying, get it out of me. Get it out of me. But by that time the damage was done, my body went into this crazy thing and I got eczema again as an adult quite badly. So I started taking steroids again, steroid cream. Well, I found out about this guy, Dr. Aaron from South Africa, ARON. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, he was like, your skin is broken. Your skin is this main barrier to your body. So if we put antibiotics onto your skin, as well to stop the staph infection recurring, as well as the steroid to calm down the immune response, and you put that in a compounding mixture and then you apply that on, it'll just break that cycle. I was so desperate at this time, and I don't normally take antibiotics. I normally swirl some colloidal silver or whatever. I was like, whatever, okay, take my money. So I got this really expensive script and I had this compounding pharmacist make it up really expensively and I lathered this stuff on my body. I realized that as it required more and more that something was going wrong. So I didn't even do this for very long and I went into full-blown TSW, which is topical steroid withdrawal. It can also happen with oral steroids for asthma like prednisol. It's also known as red skin syndrome, and it is hell. It is, you could put your hand here like this and you could feel the heat coming off my skin. I lost protein through the albumin. I lost so much weight. I couldn't bathe. For 18 months, I was just red raw. By that time, I'd had Eden, and I was breastfeeding this little girl. I had to make sure that I had a muslin in between her head and my skin because nothing could touch my skin. I was homeschooling my little boys and I would just lie on the couch. My boys learnt to cook because I couldn't walk. It was really horrible, really horrible. And so I went through, in that time, I was on OxyContin, I was on amitriptyline, mirtazapine, heavy, hard-hitting antidepressants to knock you out. I was just this walking foggy zombie of allopathic medicine before I snapped out of it and went, this is not right. I started taking trace minerals. I started essential oils to help clean, like tea tree and lavender on a bamboo thing, and I would just sponge bath myself to try and keep on top of the stuff. And I went through this whole journey. I won't go into that. That's another whole hour podcast on its own thing of what I went through there. But what I started to learn was that there were deficiencies in that, like I was saying before, your food will either harm or heal you. So I started taking maroon bush tea, which is an indigenous Aboriginal medicine. Yeah. And I started taking my trace minerals and enzymes. I went on a really strict diet. I had a lot of clean filtered water. and I went down that path and I healed. I actually feel like I had a miracle healing because I have friends that are still on that now, and that's been 6 years.
Wow.
So it takes a long time, because what happens when you take a steroid is you suppress your adrenal gland where your body makes a corticosteroid itself, a very small amount, 0.7 milligrams or something. But that is your immune system, so that if something happens, you have this steroid to kind of suppress, this natural body-made steroid to suppress what's going on in the immune system. Hay fever, or you get stung by a bee or whatever in your body, you do stuff. It's that whole fight and flight, parasympathetic system, whatever. But when you start taking a systemic steroid on your skin, which is the largest organ of your body, and you're applying it all over, it goes from your skin into your bloodstream. All this steroid goes around your bloodstream. Your adrenals go, whoa, okay, obviously you don't need to make this steroid anymore because there's heaps of it in the body. So it stops making the steroid. So then when you stop taking the steroid, your body is like a heroin patient. It's just like, give me the drug. I need the drug. And you just go through this full, with drug withdrawal. It's horrible. So many people I see suffering with this, and they're like, I've got eczema and I'm taking a natural Carolyn's or Mugu cream, and the doctor says I need this steroid. And I'm like it's a roller coaster of hell. It's horrible.
Annie, isn't that like that woman that we saw on was she TikTok or Instagram?
You would have seen it too, Hannah, where she had
I saw this girl. Yep. Actually, she had a something and then went into a full reaction, and then was on a steroid. And then you could see it when you've been a TSA warrior and you see someone with the eyes sunken and you can see the thin skin. You can sometimes see it around their mouth, but you see this rash. That's not eczema. That's steroid addiction.
Yeah, and it was like an escalation. It was an escalation from the shots, right? Yeah, and you just saw 100%. Her, and I felt so bad for her. It was like, oh my gosh,
She was crying, like she was in agony, and I had a visceral response to that. I texted Annie, and Annie texted me, you should respond to this. And I was like, girl, I've already seen it. I don't know how to use a green screen and all this other stuff. But I took a snapshot of that girl because I was like, if there was a way I could address this and help the thousands of people commenting on her as well, I wish I could do that tech. But it was like, oh my gosh, because for a long time that was a trigger for me. Like I presented at ED and said, I'm going to kill myself. Give me something to stop the pain, to help me sleep, and to stop the itch. Pain, sleep, itch. If I itch for another second, I want to die. The pain is so tremendous, I want to die. I can't sleep. It's torture. Sleep deprivation is torture. The kids still talk about it. I've got photos, Annie. I'd meant to send you the photos. Maybe we can figure out a way to put them in the comments, or I can put them on my Facebook page or something. We can find a way so people can see. But it's like someone's taken a peeler to your skin, and like for a long time, seeing stuff like that actually like brought back the memory of what that felt like, and it was you're in survival, completely in survival. Like it's horrible.
You healed yourself.
Anyway,
you healed yourself. You're here.
So the testimony is totally, and this is why I just wanted to quickly touch on this. We talked about, I quickly touched on it before, where everyone talks about vitamins. So they've got carbon, so they're kind of considered an organic substance, but trace minerals and minerals don't. So you get large minerals and you get trace minerals. So most people kind of wouldn't pay attention to this, but I just want to show you how simple it is to understand this. Okay? So we've talked about it before. You get it from the ground, then it goes into our food, then it goes into our body. That's how it works. That's how we get minerals. Okay, so you've got calcium. People have heard of calcium. Drink your milk and you'll have strong bones. You've got calcium, yeah? Phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium, sulfur, chloride. People have heard of them. Then you've got trace minerals, chromium, copper, iodine, iron, manganese, molybdenum, selenium, zinc. This is your foundational stuff, okay? Your body needs iron to make hemoglobin in the red blood cells. You need calcium, not just for your bones from your milk from the dairy industry. It's necessary for your kidney function, your muscle function, your nerve function. Thyroids can't work without iodine, and the thyroid controls so much stuff in the body, it's not even funny. But most people, when they're tired, it's like, get your thyroid tested. It's your energy. It's thyroid. Oh my gosh, thyroid's another whole podcast.
And they started taking medication.
Chromium keeps your arteries clear. So most don't understand. Yeah, many people don't understand that these minerals and trace minerals that we get, you have your calcium, you have your magnesium bars. They don't understand what that is and what that is doing to the body and why it's necessary to be in your body.
Yeah.
So I went on a fulvic acid. I couldn't get a guarantee on testing, support, or dosing. I had to keep it in the fridge. I had to take a cup of it. I tried it, a powder in the bath. I loved it. But again, I found it hard to find a powder I could trust after the boo saga. So that's something I'd like to do. That's on my to-do list, is to be able to find that, to have a supportive thing, because I love baths and I think it's a really great way of self-care. So I have a magnesium bath or a bentonite bath or an aromatherapy bath or a fulvic bath. These are great things to add into your thing. But because I've been burnt by the system, I'm a little hesitant until I know that what I'm bringing to you is to people listening, whatever, is it's been checked out. I'm really careful on that. We were talking about before with the thing. It's not that that's necessarily bad, but it's like with the bentonite and the magnesium. I've really tried to find something that I feel like I would happily put my child in this. If I can feel like I can have no hesitation, no intuitive doubt, nothing, then I'll put my child in. And that's the TRS thing. I was given a bottle of TRS, half a bottle of TRS from a friend years ago. I took it. I didn't really feel a difference, but I'd only had half of a bottle. I didn't feel comfortable giving it to my kids. Why? Intuition. What I found out later about TRS and the rubber tire industry and zeolites being synthetic and all this other stuff was, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't give that to my kids. I have a pretty good mum's gut feeling. And if I'm happy to give my kids a magnesium bath and have Eden come in the bath with me, a child, on the dosage that I'm putting them on, I know I've hit my sweet spot of trusting that product.
Yeah.
And my kids are on PBX, Super Greens, the fiber, fulvic acid. Like, I trust these products. I've trusted them for a few years. But yeah, anyway, so I'm just going through basically my testimony, the hell that I went through, so people understand that I've obviously tried a lot of things and I've learned a lot of things since that process. One of the things that we aren't talking about here, but we need to talk about because it's in the fiber that has just been released, is that there is over 3,000 known enzymes that perform every kind of chemical conversion in the body. They are biological catalysts. So we talked about catalysts being a speeding up of all chemical reactions in all living things. Yep. So if you have digestive enzymes, you have trace minerals, you have the right nutrients, and you have a good detox that's safe and gentle, then that is what is absolutely essential for your gut health and your brain health and the function of your body in every single way. Wow. That's where we're at now. That's why we're talking about these things.
Well, and that's why I think it's so impressive when we did the guide and we were looking at all the products in your protocol. I was like, wow, I've never known a company that is in complete support of your entire detox journey, so that it's not just this one thing and then you can deal with the fallout or something. It's like, and then and it even goes into helping you with any kind of Herxheimer reaction. With the CBD and the wellspring. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It has like all these ideal things that I take in different supplements and it's all in one. And it's very supportive. Like, it's very supportive to your journey, which I think is just amazing.
Well, I think it's nourishing. I think that it's nurturing. It's like this company sells a product, right? Like every company. Right. So they're selling a product. But their heart behind it is to be with you through that whole journey. Even the blog, if you link into the blog to one of your sites here, just look at, it's practical. It's like, oh, but yeah, I haven't thought of that. Oh, that's great. And they give you smoothie recipes and they give you, Christmas CBD coca recipe. I mean, it's a nurturing thing. And so much in this world is harsh and crazy and misinformation, panic and fight and flight and overwhelm and stressors and busy. And then you have this partnership where it's like a done for you model. Step 1, do this. This is how it works. Step 2, do that. Go through this. And I mean, you can tweak it. Like I said before, listen to your body, apply your own, you might feel intuitively to take CBD at the start instead of at the end or whatever. But the whole point of it is that it's just so calming and inviting and nurturing. It's like the company is self-caring for you. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me after the overwhelm of.
Yes, and I feel like you don't have to look outside the company to support you in your detax journey, because so many times you go, oh no, now I have this problem or I have this reaction and I got to go find something to help me with that, symptom now. It's like it's amazing. I'm so impressed.
The only thing you have to source out is like if you want to go and get a lymphatic drainage or a massage or an infrared sauna or a spa, or to walk a little bit more and incorporate some exercise into your regime. But they're all things that you do that are like that you must provide for yourself. You know, sit on the couch and read a good book. These are all things that can't be provided for the company. But in terms of what can be provided to support you on your journey, they've touched all of it. They've done it so well.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the book is cool. It's going to be good.
Well, we'll probably go through that in a bit, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
Have a quick squiz.
Well, one thing that we need to talk about real quickly before we go into the book, do we want to talk about like,
yeah, let's talk
any-
about that.
yeah. So because we know that fulvic acid and the zeolite in it are going to help eliminate parasites. We know that, and we'll go through the book in the next thing. But we also have been doing some research into spike protein.
Wow.
And I won't go massively down the trail, but I just want to bring something to you guys. Here's something from studies in the 70s all the way through the 90s. Okay, and I'm just gonna put this out there. With most viruses, the inhibitory effect of the fulvic acid is directed specifically against an early stage of virus replication, namely virus nature's fulvic. Okay, that's the thing, whatever. Klopking and Sprosig, 1975, and Scholes et al., 1991. We already have studies that show that it's going to inhibit the replication of viral replication.
Wow.
And I'm just going down to basically explain it like this. A fulvic acid will coat the virus. You know when you see a picture of the virus and it's got those little sucker things coming out, like little
crowns. Yeah.
on the, yep. And it makes a barrier that keeps it from replicating, which is also called in science terms enveloping. It puts the virus in an envelope like enclosure so it can't attach to a cell and replicate. But the best way I've heard this described is if Mr. Fulvic is kissing Mrs. Virus, then Mrs. Virus can't kiss your body cell.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Fulvic acid is already in a relationship, is already coated with or touching on a virus. Then the virus can't be over here doing something to the cell in your body that it's been created to go to and attach to.
Wow.
So it's already engaged.
It's already
in another
engaged.
relationship.
It's not going to have an affair with your body cell because it's having a good snog over here with the fulvic. It's bound to it. It's coated with it. Fulvic's all over that shit. It's not happening. And
all over it,
that's
like
the
white on
best
rice.
way, without going really deep into it, without flagging any crap all over here. That's the best way I could simplify a scientific. I'm looking at, I've got quotes, I'm looking at studies that have been done on it, but most of us don't know how to read studies or understand it in layman's terms, and most of us don't care. I have referenced studies for so many of my people, and they never ever care. They never go into the PubMed and read the studies anyway. So even if they are a bit geeky on it all, they're just kind of like, yeah, I get it in layman's terms. So I just wanted to leave that out there. That have we covered everything? Like, have we? I feel like we've.
I have a couple of things. I was looking at some of our notes. So I know you talked about how it really helped with your skin, protects and repairs the skin. We had on here muscle function. I don't think we touched on that. How does that affect your muscle function? I think we had it in our notes.
Yeah, we do. Hang on, I'm going to go down.
That's important to me because I lost a lot of muscle tone when I got really sick last year.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, oh my gosh, you guys, because we did an overview and we haven't even gone into that. Like I'm going, oh crap, we haven't actually explained that. Okay, let's do that real quick. Okay, so it's anti-inflammatory, which is, we've already talked about how it helps fight free radicals. But that can improve nerve pain, muscle pain, arthritis, inflammation, like anything with itis means inflammation of headaches and any other kind of condition that's related to the inflammatory response. With muscles, it actually improves muscle function and increases testosterone when applicable. It's a great way to improve your recovery rate after a workout because it helps increase overall muscle strength and endurance. And I can try and find the links to studies and things to chuck in. Do you guys have a platform where you can post this up, and then in the comments you can have references to where to buy it or where the study is or whatever? Yeah. So if people want to see the pictures of my struggle, or they want to see the links to this or whatever, they can.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's how it helps with muscle function.
Wow.
Also, it improves the absorption of electrolytes. So if you've lost muscle function and you need to start to begin the healing process and work out, it's going to help expedite the absorption of electrolytes, so speed up the absorption of electrolytes. But also what you've also got to consider is, because it's doing such a phenomenal job on the gut, everything like probiotics, prebiotics, antioxidants, minerals, all of that kind of stuff, it's significantly improving your gut health. And if you have significantly improved your gut health, you're going to have a knock-on effect to every system in your body, whether it's your musculoskeletal, your cardiovascular, whatever. Everything starts in the gut.
Yeah. Right. So would you say taking probiotics with this, or would you not need to take probiotics?
I mean, I always advocate that you never take a probiotic. You never take something with another thing ever. I always would give something. You have a half-life of a drug. This isn't a drug, but in medical terms, there's always a time in which they expect the Panadol to hit, and then they say it'll last for 4 hours and then it will stop, whatever. Every drug has a half-life, which is why in medical terms, you have to make sure that there's no contraindications. So that if you take something that is going to contraindicate with your blood pressure medicine, it's really important that you know how long your blood pressure medicine is acting in the body. So I always advocate that if you're going to take any form of supplement, you take it separately to the next thing. Okay, so if you're taking fulvic acid, which has already fulvic acid, trace minerals, and zeolite, that's been designed to stay together and do an action on itself together. I would take your probiotics half an hour before or half an hour afterwards, so that they get into your tummy and start going into your small intestine and everything, and start moving into the bloodstream, and then add your trace minerals. In fact, what I would do is probably take the fulvic acid and trace minerals first and start opening up, increasing the absorption and bioavailability in your cells, and then take your good quality probiotics and have that. And then that's probably going to get the probiotics to be absorbed into the stomach, into the body easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's a great.
Never take like a tonic, an antioxidant drink. I mean, you can have a green smoothie or something. You can have food with it, but you really want to be trying to make sure that can just let it get into the body first. Once it's in the body, because of the way it's designed, it'll move quite quickly into the bloodstream. But you don't want to have to have the body working on a digestive thing. You don't want to be having this really heavy roast dinner, and it's like, I'm trying to just get access to the zeolite or the trace minerals, and it's kind of like having to work extra hard. So anything that you take, just take it separately. I say about half an hour for supplements, because if they're good quality supplements like these, they've been designed to be bioavailable, which means they've been designed to be used quickly and assimilated quickly into the cells of the body. So as soon as you spray the zeolite, as soon as you start using our trace minerals and zeolite, it's getting absorbed into your bloodstream in your mouth, and very quickly from the stomach, which is why you don't have to wait for 4 hours to take your probiotics or for 2 hours to have your breakfast. You just have to give it a little bit of time to get in there and start working, and then you can add whatever else you're going to be adding into your system.
That's really good, Hannah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good. So question.
That's what I do.
I take my Fulvic Minerals in the evening, and I wash down my pharmaceuticals that unfortunately I still have to take with them. So, and I mean, I know I'm a retired nurse and, all the things, but sometimes, when it's yourself, you don't really care. But is that not advisable?
Yeah, I would say no, because you have your condition isn't just like, I get some headache, so I'm going to take some paracetamol, or, it's a more serious thing. And I would be worried about the half-life, because the thing is with anything autoimmune, because of how powerful fulvic acid is, and also because of how we've designed it to be, you could stop. What I'm thinking with your stuff is that it could affect the half-life of your drug.
Right.
So if your drug is supposed to be in your system for 8 hours doing what it needs to do to your systems, and this comes in and just kind of cuts that out, then short or long term, there could be a problem. So what I would do is you can take your fulvic acid at night, but when do you take your drugs? With your dinner? Like,
no, just before I go to bed.
Okay, so I would take my fulvic acid with my dinner.
Yeah, okay.
So I eat dinner like around 6-ish. So for me, if I would do it the other way, I would take my fulvic acids just before bed and take the drug before. But if you have to do the drug for whatever reason just before bed, because that's better for you, because it could be that it helps you sleep, it could be that it's to do some process in the nighttime while you're sleeping and healing, and you have to do the drug that time, then I would do the fulvic acid a few hours before with my dinner, with my evening meal, or sometime in the evening. If you want to take the fulvic acid in the evening, I'd do it a few hours separately from the drug. You go to bed quite late, right?
I do.
Like 10, 11, 12, whatever. Only because it's my time, like 9 or 10 p.m. and you're still up. And I'm like, what the heck? It's like midnight over there. So that's plenty of time to have had a break. So if I was you, I would take the fulvic acid minerals and do that around the time that you have your dinner, whatever time, half an hour before, half an hour, whatever.
Yep.
And same with anything else that you feel like you need to take. If you're taking stuff at night to do the healing stuff, I tended to take the PB drops at night, so I can replace the fulvic acid with that. And I take my PBX and my kind of tonics and stuff in the day to give me energy through the day. I'm quite sensitive, so if I have like goji berries or green smoothies or whatever, I'm like at 3 or 4, I'm pinging, like my body's sensitive to it. So I take that in the morning first thing. And then, I take my fulvic acid and stuff at night as well, so that my body, just while it's sleeping, is healing and restoring and replenishing. And the zeolite's just moving stuff through my gut, peristalsis. And in the morning, I just get up, do a massive big poop, and it's awesome. Love it.
That's good.
But I wouldn't be taking the drugs at the same time.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
So on that note, then
it's super stimulating, so in a good way, because it's going to regenerate your cells and stuff. Yeah,
that's good. And that's why I take it at night, because of all the things you just said. So we'll talk about then what contraindications there are in terms of known pharmaceuticals that are known to reduce the half-life.
Yeah. Okay. And we need to know that as well, what I mentioned, my skin and things like that, it can act also as a painkiller, because it reduces inflammation, it reduces pain, it increases your body's ability to detoxify itself and so that stuff. So you are going to get fewer aches and pains and probably more energy. Your skin's going to glow. So it has all these other health benefits we kind of haven't touched on. But so this is where you need to be careful with fulvic acid. Medications that slow your blood clotting, so we call them anticoagulants. So what would that be? We're thinking heparin, warfarin, aspirin. These are all blood thinners or anticoagulants that slow the blood clotting. That does interact with fulvic acid. So because it increases how quickly the blood clots. So in the sense that fulvic acid is regeneration and stimulation, there are some things that you want to not overstimulate, which is why I was talking about the whole detox bar thing and not knowing the dosages, because someone could have a lot of pain, Jody, like, autoimmune and unexplained things, and what the heck, something's wrong. And it could be a precursor to autoimmune, or it could be something like Hashimoto's and stuff. And people are desperate to have some sort of relief from that. And they take this really nice natural thing. But in the case of autoimmune stuff, you don't want to overstimulate your immune system. You're trying to calm it down. So something like CBD and stuff like that is really good for that, and zeolite to take out heavy metals to stop any inflammation that's kind of contributing to that whole thing. But because fulvic acid is so regenerative and so foreign and so quick to work in the body, it can increase how quickly the blood clots. So if you're then taking fulvic acid with a medication that's an anticoagulant, you could reduce the effect of the anticoagulant and increase the risk of blood clots. So if a person is at risk of blood clots, or their GP has put them on that, that's another whole question, whether they need to be on that or not, or whether they could take a more natural thing. It depends on the person, and we're not here to give medical advice, and everyone's different, and there's billions of people in the world. When I'm working with someone one-to-one, I have a printout of what drugs they're on and what are the active ingredients in that drug. And then I write out a protocol for someone, and I say, you need to book in with your GP and discuss this, because not because I trust GPs, but because I don't want to be culpable in taking something that is nice and natural and good for someone and not have it discussed with a GP and take the risk. But that's why we talk about it from a scientific point of view. we are trying to get off this blood pressure medication. It's giving her headaches, or she's trying to get off this because she's putting this antidepressant because she's been putting on weight with it, or she's at risk of blooding for whatever reason. Unfortunately, something out there is a reason, and then going on another pharmaceutical to try and reduce the blood clotting. There are some fantastic Chinese herbs that are so much stronger than warfarin and more natural. So, but not everyone knows that because it's not mainstream. So, I've got here aspirin. I've written down diclofenac, which is what some people use for period pain. It's like a strong kind of Voltaren, whatever.
It's like ibuprofen in a tablet or something. Isn't it like another NSAID?
It's like naproxen and stuff. It's a stronger anti-inflammatory than ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Naproxen, which people take for period pain, Advil, Motrin, heparin. I said heparin and warfarin. I've written down a few trade names as well. Fragmin, Lovenox.
So you shouldn't take it while you're taking any of those. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have,
are you talking about taking it close to
a headache and you take a Nurofen for whatever reason, and don't take it close to it. But I mean, if you take a Nurofen because you have a headache and you want an anti-inflammatory Nurofen, you can, I would say find the root cause, drink more water or whatever, but that aside, say you take the Nurofen, all this is going to do if you've taken fulvic acid minerals in that day or close to this, is that it's going to reduce the life of the Nurofen. So the Nurofen is going to not work for as long as possible. If you are on an actual course of aspirin or warfarin as a blood clotting thing because you are susceptible to blood clots, so that's a lot of elderly people and some people that have conditions now that they can blood clot. So the doctors put them on a course of blood thinners or anticoagulants. They don't want the blood to coagulate. And then you take this. This speeds up the process of increasing how quickly the blood clots. So all it's going to do is it's going to affect the life of that anti-clotting drug in your body. So typically if that was going to happen, a doctor would put you on a bigger dose or you take it more regularly, because say if you're going to take aspirin and it's supposed to last 8 hours, but it only lasts 4 hours, then he'd get you to take it again in 4 hours. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can go on fulvic acid, but you'd need to go to your GP if you were on a course like that and say, well, I really want to take fulvic acids and trace minerals for my gut. Here's the science that shows that it supports the gut. The problem is that you've got me on a set of warfarin. Can we adjust my warfarin, either the dose from 120 milligrams to 70 milligrams? Can we take it 3 times a day instead of 2 times a day? Like, how can I work with you to make sure that I'm still getting that warfarin, that anticoagulant effect that I need to be on, but still be able to take my fulvic acid minerals? So you can still take it, but these are the kind of things I'd go and talk to my GP about, just to cover yourself.
Oh, well, yeah, and just
because they can just adjust it. Yeah. It's a timing thing and a dosage thing. Any immunosuppressants, anything that decreases the immune system, interacts with fulvic acid because it can stimulate your immune system. So again, it might decrease the effect of the medication that decrease the immune system. Okay, so you're looking at Simulect, Xenopax, Cellcept, prednisone, which is that prednisol, the steroid, and other corticosteroids. You'll know if you have an immune system thing and they're trying to decrease your immune system function because it's heightened. We were talking about this all through COVID, that sometimes you don't want to have a cytokine storm and overstimulate your immune system response, because then you're going to go into organ failure.
Exactly.
So it's too much of a good thing. Your immune system needs to function. You don't want it to overfunction and you don't want it to underfunction. So if you're taking fulvic acid and you're already in a situation where your immune system can be stimulated too much, and so they're trying to keep your immune system stable. Unfortunately, they do that by just masking the symptoms and putting you on a drug. That's another whole story, because you need to be healing your immune system. But we have to say this as a disclaimer: if you're going to be trying to integrate any of these natural things, you're going to need to take some of the studies that we have that are available on our website. You're going to need to print them out. You need to say, I want to work with you, my healthcare provider, my functional medicine doctor, my naturopath, my doctor, my GP, whatever, and say, I'd like to be able to wean off this in the next 6 months. Can you help me work that out? Okay, that's what you're going to have to do. Thyroid hormone interacts with fulvic acid. So if people are receiving a thyroid hormone for any reason, they should use fulvic acid cautiously, or again, just talk to you. I've got some studies here which I can send through to you. Again, your long-term, my message to you would be your long-term goal should be to heal your thyroid. Your long-term goal should be to find out what's going wrong in your endocrine system. It could be that you have endocrine disruptors because you're using body wash, shampoo, makeup, and perfume, and you're burning candles in your home, which is a freaking frickery of your endocrine system. Like, stop. Just stop. Don't burn your Yankee candles and put out all your Christmas scent sprays and friggin' put all this makeup on your skin and hairspray that is total messing with your endocrine system, which is where your hormones come from. So take out the bad and start putting in the good. I'd rather that you heal your thyroid and can function well than just be on a thyroid medication for your life, and then you can't take superb things like fulvic acid to help heal your gut and your systems and get off your thyroid medication. Like, we have to break the cycle. But unfortunately, if you're already in a state of disrepair or a crisis or in a serious condition, you can't just jump right into all of this natural stuff because you're already munted. You have to go low and slow and be working really carefully with us to make sure that you are doing the right thing. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's perfect for you. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we've talked about this before though too, Han, that people who start the journey and they're like I mentioned earlier, the whirlwind and we've got to do all the things and they're manic. It's like you can't just go head first. You can't just go head first into this. You really have to, when you start to understand the level of toxic load and exposure we have, you really got to take baby steps, and not rip the Band-Aid off.
And you have to see it as a long-term thing. So most people that come to me aren't coming to me going, I feel pretty good, but I'm curious about this, or I feel like I'm pretty healthy, but I'd like to drink a little bit less or not have to be addicted to coffee. Most people that come to me, 99% of people that come to me are like, I have aches, I have skin conditions, I am anxious all the time, I can't think clearly, I think I'm getting early onset dementia, I'm stressed, there's something wrong with my periods, I get swollen glands underneath here all the time, I keep getting colds and flus, I used to never get sick and now I get sick every month. And so most people are coming in some form of crisis. So the body is already going, alert, help. It's putting out symptoms to say something's wrong in here. And then we can't just be like, boom, splash, go. Like, the poor body's like, help. We've got to be tender and gentle with it. And so that's why it does annoy me. And I think we have talked about this, Annie, where people are like, okay, so if I do PBX for 6 weeks, will I be all better? Well, no, darling, if you're 44 years old and toxic, you're not going to be better in 6 weeks. You've taken 44 damn years, 4.5 decades, plus whatever was in your mother's womb when you were being created, that you have to get off. This is a long-term plan to look after yourself for the rest of your life. Most people, when they're in a crisis like this, they need to give this a good year to 2 years before they are like, I am singing. I have clarity. I don't need coffee. I am not anxious. I have focus. I am amazing. This is fantastic. It's a 2-year process, minimum. So the only other thing is drink water, pure water, whenever you supplement with fulvic and zeolites, because of how they pull things out. You don't want to be drinking tap water with this at all, ever. I don't even care. Do not drink tap water with fulvic. Don't drink it in general, but just never. But please don't take it. Even other brands of fulvic I've seen. And see, that's another thing why the bath thing concerns me, because we run the tap from our bath unless we have a filter. And I know most council municipal water has chlorine and fluoride and stuff in it. And so what contraindications are happening in that chemical reaction there? I know that when you have steam and chlorine, it's so toxic to the body. So people that don't have shower filters on, they're doing all this other stuff, but then they're just literally showering their body. What did we talk about before? The skin is the largest organ of the body. It's waste, it comes out and it absorbs in things, which is why environmental toxins are a thing. So this is why I kind of feel like if you have clean filtered water and you're taking a bioavailable form of fulvic acid, you're going to get a far quicker and greater response through that process than if you went and bought a fulvic, especially one that you're not sure of. But if you're sure of one, that's fine. But then you're mixing it with hot chlorine and fluoride and God knows what else, water. So it's not an goes on, but it's something.
It's really hard to find a bath filter because I've looked They have really bad ones on Bed Bath & Beyond and Amazon. I've tried them and they were just funky. And I'm like, okay, we need to come up with a bath filter, like a bathtub filter that is really good. It can't be that hard,
Or rather a filter that just goes on the main water source of your house. That would be.
Well, yeah, but I can't do that. I live in an apartment.
Oh,
but,
true.
but you're right. That's great.
And that's thousands of dollars. But if you're renting, you can't do that. I mean, the Zazen water that we sell just in Australia has a shower filter, but it won't work if you've got an instant hot water system. And unfortunately, in the towns, most of them are an instant hot water system. So, but it's just something to be aware of, so that it's another thing to be aware of. Not something to freak out about, but it's another reason why we are advocating for something like this rather than a Fulvic bath, say.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what about kids and pets? Is it safe for kids and pets?
Yeah, it totally is. Our Fulvic is. I'm not going to speak for all Fulvic, but like our Fulvic is 2 meals. Adult dose is 2 meals in a cup of water per day. I started with 1 meal, and Fulvic is one of those things that you do build up slowly. I mean, anything that I start slowly anyway, just to gauge how my body's responding. Like, I don't know, we just, if I'm guinea pigging on myself, I always start slowly. So with children that are under 5, I'd say 1/4 meal. So on the dropper, you can actually see it's got a meal. So, and then it's got 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4. So I would just say a really small dose of fulvic acid in their water every day. That's awesome. If it's a child between 5 and 12, say, you could go up to 1 meal. And if they're over 12, generally the adult dose is over 12. But I mean, obviously you have a small 12-year-old that's more like a 9-year-old thing, you could keep it small. If they're over 12, they could start going up to 1.5 meals to 2 meals a day. I mean, I would probably say until you're an adult, don't go on 2 meals, not because it will harm you, but because 1, you don't need it. So for your budget, you don't need it. 2 meals a day in our Fulvic Mineral has 60 mils. So that's a 30-day dose if you're on the full adult dose, if you're taking it daily. For those who are at a pinch, you can also integrate. So if you're looking at our packages and stuff that we're talking about, we've got the zeolites, we've got the pure body gut drops, we've got fulvic acid with the zeolites. And then we've got your wellspring, which has other things in it. You've got your fiber with your enzymes. You've got your super greens with 44, all that. We've all talked about, we've alluded to that. So if you're taking one, you don't have to take the other. If I take my PBX spray because I really feel like I tend to not also take my super greens with all of those organic detoxing things because I've just taken a detox thing. So I don't feel like I need to double up on stuff. Maybe initially, if you're really toxic, you might have to. But once you get to a maintenance level, you just take what you need. So that fulvic acid can last longer than a month on a full adult dose because you might take it Monday to Friday and not take it on weekends or whatever. Or take it every second day. But for children and pets, it's a small dose. So for pets, 1/4 meal. For children, 1/4 meal. And when they come up to adults, their top dose is 2 meals a day. That's all.
So for pets, would you put it in their water? Would you put it on their food?
I actually would put it on their food because unless I was just going to put a little bit on their water, because my Kelpie has his big water bowl there and he'll just go over that for like 24 hours. The only time that he really drinks a lot of water is if we take him to the beach and he's had some salt water, or if we've taken for a big hour-long run, then he comes home and has a massive, massive drink. So in that case, if I remembered, I could go out, half fill his water bowl because I know he's going to have it all, chuck his 1/4 meal fulvic in it and go for it. But I tend to just add stuff to his food. Even the spray, the gut drops, I just put that on his food because he was just, I knew he was going to wolf that down and lick the bowl, and then he'd go and have a drink of water with 15 minutes of that, and I knew that I would get that all into him. Whereas if I put it in his water and he doesn't drink all that water, I'm not sure what the effect is, how long it lasts in the body, how long the charge is, whether putting it in his metal bowl is going to affect the fulvic. I mean, that's not the kind of stuff that the company was testing on because it's not their focus, but they're the things that I think about. And so I just would prefer to put it on their food. I know that if I put it on his food and he eats his food straight away, it's going to get into his body.
So I have a cat. So would it be like I could put like maybe 1 spray and 1 drop of fulvic on?
I do it differently. I would do, if you feed the cat morning and night, I do the spray in the morning, say, and the fulvic, if you've got a small cat, even less than 1/4 meal, but 1/4 meal would be okay. Just a tiny little drop in with their cat food, in with their kibble, and because I don't know, most animals eat their food and then within half an hour they go and have a drink and wash it down. So they're going to have that detox. They're going to be able to get their water and stuff in that we would be advocating that people. We say increase your water when you're detoxing. So as long as your cat doesn't have a problem with drinking.
No, she doesn't, and they're so intuitive pets, so.
They really are. They'll leave a room, like we use aromatherapy around our pets, and they come for it. It's incredible. But a lot of people freak out about it, and I'm like, no, if a cat doesn't like what's going on, whether it's the noise or the smell or anything, they just get up and go.
Yeah, they're gonna bolt.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about safety so much with them. Pretty intuitive. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so good. It's handy to know too, because we haven't really talked much about pet health and all that sort of stuff. But
No.
they're closer to the floor, and that they lick things up off. Goodness knows what. A bit of a germaphobe comes out in me.
Well,
when I mean,
even just if they're in the floor and their paws are super absorbent of everything that's going on. The rest of them is all fur, but their paws are right there on the floor, and you're spraying the floor with Dettol or friggin' Roundup or whatever it is that people clean their floors with. I haven't used any toxic chemicals on my floors for years and years and years.
Or even weed killer out in the garden. I have conniptions every time my dad wants to go and kill the weeds with spray. I'm like, what are you doing?
None of that.
We have livestock, we have animals. What are you doing?
I know. It's so funny when I'm doing the weeding, I have this kettle, boiling water kettle, and I'm going around in between the cracks of the cobblestones. And my husband's like, seriously, like I can just spray real quick. I don't know.
Well, vinegar works as well. Vinegar, just white vinegar, that on a hot day, that works as well. But I mean, I know that vinegar as well, even though that's a natural thing, it's that can become toxic as well. So
hey Annie, I've got one other thing that I've written down because I think it'll really, really help people. Can I just say this? I know I just keep talking. I've talked too much this women.
No, I love it. Go.
Well, you know how we were talking about the gut health and that the majority of the immune system is in your digestive tract and in your bowel. So because they have all of this stuff, it can promote your body's collagen response, these trace minerals. So that's really cool because I know a lot of people like my age and over take a collagen. I really like to take stuff that helps my body create more of its own thing. Like the redox molecules increases my body's own glutathione efficacy by 500 to 800%. This stuff helps create my own body's collagen response. Anything that I can take that's going to increase my antioxidant response in my own body. It's like innate and already in me, and I just have to kind of activate it.
Yeah.
So collagen's really important. We lose collagen and elastin. And so from a beauty point of view, because I was talking about how it affects skin, it does actually help increase skin because it's super anti-inflammatory and it helps heal skin. So that's whether it's bug bites, rashes, fungi, eczema, it's going to help that. But I just wanted to add that it does promote your body's collagen response. It helps promote probiotics, prebiotics, electrolytes, and fatty acids. It aids in the production of hormones. So as a result of that, you can regulate your appetite, manage your stress, and have optimal immune function like we talked about before. There are lots of people who believe, like natural practitioners, who absolutely have seen the studies and gone, it would be formidable against diseases like leaky gut syndrome, your small intestine bacteria overgrowth, SIBO, and any other inflammatory conditions of the bowel. And because of its antiviral stuff that we've talked about a little bit about replicating things, it can also even help with the common cold and your sore throat. I had just written that down, even though we've touched on it being about nutrient absorbent and we've touched on it about being kind of good for the skin and anti-inflammatory. I wanted to explain what that means if it's anti-inflammatory, what that means. Like, I mean, it's literally beautifying as well as healing. Wow. And for some people that you can say anti-inflammatory, but not actually know what does that action mean on the body? What did that mean for me? How did that look like? So I sometimes go back to my notes like that because I'm like, you guys need to know what this actually means for you.
Yeah, that's so good. All. Wow, that's amazing.
Had to do that.
So Jodie, did you have any more questions?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much. That was really extensive on the benefits of fulvic acid, I thought. The Fulvic Minerals Plus anyway from Touchstone. And I've already noticed a benefit in taking it myself. Cool. It's just been so good. even though I've
Yeah.
been taking it with my little medications. Whatever. I'm not
Yeah,
here nor
I
there,
mean,
but
that wasn't about it contraindicating and ruining it. It's more about the fact that it may affect how effective your medications are.
well, I was more worried about if my medications affect the effectiveness of the Fulvic. I don't really
Yeah.
care about the medications. I'm only worried about the Fulvic. I'm like, medications can whatever.
It depends on the medication though. Hey, like I don't know all your medications and stuff. I mean, I can guess what they're for, knowing being your friend and knowing your history and stuff. But whether the medication is to inhibit something or to progress something, or whether it's to restore this or whether it's to balance that, I mean, it just depends on the action of what the medication is there for. Would depend on whether or not it's gonna be effective. It's gonna add what fulvic acid does in your body. But you know, we can talk off camera about that, and certainly if we come back to it, we can explain. And that's the thing that people need to understand, not just about how they need to know their own body and be intuitive and just kind of go on this. This is a journey. This is a path. To sound cliche, if you're here and you're listening, it's because you want to do something better. Want to know better, do better, you want to heal something, you're interested in this kind of subject for whatever reason, whether you're an expert or you're a noob. But likewise, you know, everything is individual. I know people that are like, without CBD, I would have died. It's the best thing ever in the whole entire world. I love it. To be fair, the people that don't like it probably haven't tried it for long enough, but I know people who are like, CBD did nothing for me, nothing. Like it's just hasn't done anything. And that's okay. Like everyone's different. Everyone has different things that work for them. We have different foods we like. We have different sleep patterns. We have different decorations in our home. It's okay. The point is you're an individual. You've got to get to know who you are and what works for you. And you've got to try some of this stuff. So it's good that you can try things with $50 off vouchers and sales and specials and packs and stuff. And you can try it in a community of people who are going to support you and go, oh, maybe try this. So have you thought about that? Because then you're not kind of walking on it alone. But you're an individual, and what works for you won't work for someone else. And that is A-okay.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Well, we're really excited about the book. We're really excited about the Fulvic. We're like Fulvic nuts now, aren't we?
If you weren't before, you are now.
We certainly
Exactly.
are. And we love just the support and just who you are and the nurturing and the care and the effort that you take with those who deal with you. You know, we feel very supported by you always, and we hope that we can return the favor. But even in your community, your Facebook group, which we'll link as well in the description.
Wait, my Facebook link that I banned for the last 30 days?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That Facebook group? Yeah, the one I'm super active in right now because I can't get on there.
Yeah, that one.
Stupid.
Yeah, that's right. It happens to all of us, you know. The best of us. Those of us who are really trying to do something, we get in the most trouble. So, you know, it's just
and Annie got a little strike against her for sharing something about niacin.
Yeah, useful. I told you about that too.
I know.
Yeah. So but yeah, so people can find that, but also we encourage people, because you are such a wealth of knowledge, and people can book consults with you. So book a consult and pay her some money. The poor woman, she's not poor, but she, you know, support Hannah, because she's really invested a lot into Jody and I and this book. So yeah, it'd be good to.
Well, I've for 20 years just been learning and sharing what worked for me and what hasn't worked for me in my own journey with my kids, jab injured, all that kind of stuff. And I've shared that for free completely. It's my jam. I love helping. But at the moment, you know, taking time to do a webinar. I've got someone coming over for that athletics carnival. We're at a homeschool group. I've sent my kids down to the library for the last couple of hours. I've got to clean the house and stuff. So if I book it in, it helps protect my boundaries. But the thing is as well, like 45 minutes or an hour talking with someone who's gone through all the things. There's not many things that are out there on the market that I haven't heard about and had some experience, or had a client that's had an experience, good or bad. Helps you tailor it to yourself. So if you're like, okay, well, I take these medications and I don't know this, and what do you mean by contraindication? And then at least when you have a consult with me, it's bespoke to you and your needs. You can walk away with a tailored plan that works for you, and you understand the context of why you're doing it. You're not just like, my doctor said I have to take all these pills. I don't really know how their action is on the body. You're instead kind of understanding the basics of the body in a real layman's terms kind of way, I feel. And then you're like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. It does take the overwhelm out. But you guys, if you were speaking to a life coach, it's $250 an hour. If you're speaking to a naturopath, it's $180 an hour. If you're going to the doctor, it's $88. So I think my consults are like $65 Australian. So it's like $40 US. So I'm not taking the piss with it. I'm just going, for me to allocate that time, talk to you, write up a plan personalized to you, you know, and to take that away from my kids and what I need to do in my life. I just want to be able to have a little bit to cover that time. But it's good value. I promise you it's good value. I really do actually care.
Well, anyone who sat and listened to any of our interviews we've had with you have all come away with like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. So there is no doubt that in 45 minutes that they would not get bang for their buck and some.
So cool.
Exactly.
Kid you not.
Little old me.
Cut it out.
That's funny. Oh, I love it. That's so funny. Like, to me, I'm just like, seriously, this is my jumper I put on for the webinar. like I'm not a professional. Well, I am a professional, but like I just totally feel like I'm just doing like the best that I can do. And the biggest thing for me, Annie, is if I can stop you from doing the mistakes I made because I was trusting the system and I went through hell. If I can just kind of simplify that and go, okay, what we know categorically is that everyone can benefit from A, B, C, and D. Now let's look at your picture and go, how do we weave that into, you've got 4 kids, you've got basketball training, you work 3 days a week. So how can we weave this in so that it's workable for you without it being stressful for you, and your husband's on board and doesn't think that you're a crackpot because you're taking zeolites from a mountain or whatever. Let's just do that and work it out for you, and then it'll be okay. And that just helps people. Like it really takes the overwhelm and the stress of it all out.
But many people I speak to as well, they just want someone that they can't order their thoughts in their own head. You know, it's like you said before, you can't see forest through the trees. And so just to have someone to verbally process and go, and then just do a quick up little plan, and it's like, oh, great, cool, done. And it takes, like you said, the stress and the overwhelm out of it for people.
It's also holistic. It's like you end up talking about marriage stuff, boundaries with kids, your teenager to do more of the chores, like with all this stuff that was the anxiety in the first place, you end up with a really good encouragement and a reframe on what you're doing in your life, because someone from the outside who doesn't know you is looking in going, okay, so why are you doing that? And you end up kind of getting a much more wider and whole approach to everything you're doing in life, not just this little aspect of detoxing, because this is just one aspect of the bigger picture. So once we see the bigger picture and how it relates to you, we can go like that and relate it back to your bigger picture. And that a lot of things change in your life then, not just I have more energy because I'm taking fulvic acid. You change a lot of things. Cool. How that works.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, so we thank you, and we love partnering with you on this. This is we have so much fun, and we think you're awesome.
Fun. Yeah. Thanks, Annie. Thanks, Jodie.
Thanks.
So thanks everyone for watching. We will launch our walkthrough of the book shortly after this, and if you want, we'll figure out a streamlined way in terms of how to get that to you. We're still trying to figure that out, but yeah, stay tuned, because we're always up to something, aren't we, Jodie?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for watching.